Hello, everyone. This is Zoe from IUCN. I will just rename myself. Hi, Carla. Hi, Celine, Jackie.
Hello. Não sei porque hoje ele não está a funcionar esta câmera, mas está ligada. Não tem não. Deixa-me lá ligar. Falar. Yeah. Ele só está bem. Esta câmera não está a funcionar.
Diana, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Let
Hello.
me set you up with
Ontem eu estive numa reunião. Ele ligar que eu tinha posto esta câmera de fogo.
Carla, just so you know, you're unmuted.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. Just making sure you knew. Okay, Diana, I'm starting the channel now. Lena, would you mind going in and seeing if all is good with Diana? Hi, Sharon. Hi, Anne. Nice to meet you both.
Hi, Diana. Could you try
Hello.
saying something? Hi, how are you? Yes, perfect. Thank you so much.
Hello. Good. How are you?
Good, thank you.
All set?
I'm very boomer question. Does anyone know how to like blur my background? I'm like not seeing it anywhere.
So go to your video. There's like a little arrow.
Oh, okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
I was like, I'm trying everything.
Okay, so Lena, we're all set with the translation.
Yes.
Speakers and moderators, are there any questions that I can answer, Georgia and I could answer before we get started? And I believe none of you are speaking in French, but if you did want to have that option, we do have live translation available.
Hi everyone, I'm okay. I see everyone has very good backgrounds. I'm wondering how you do that. Is there a feature on Zoom?
Yes, you can. You can
Okay.
explore your video settings. So if you see the little video icon, bottom of the screen, there should be a little arrow. And then you, if you click, I think, video settings,
Okay.
you
Yes.
should see some options.
Okay, I've seen that. Okay.
Great.
Georgia, you have to mirror your background because the logo is backwards.
Oh my God, those. I even tried to load the one that was not backwards. Oh, okay. Sorry. I was waiting to see people joining the call, but I forgot that as host, maybe you can't see. So welcome everyone to IUCN's Protecting People, Protecting Nature, Addressing GBV in Environmental Contexts, our webinar in commemoration of the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. We'll get started in just a minute. Thank you for your patience with my technical figuring things out technologically. But so we'll start the PowerPoint here, and then let's just go ahead and get started since we have a lot packed in to this hour. So first of all, welcome. You'll be welcomed several more times. Next slide, please, Zoe. All right. So as this points out, you'll be hearing today from a number of different IUCN projects in partnership with, among others, Global Affairs Canada and NORAD. And before we get started, I'm just going to go over some housekeeping notes quickly, and then I'll pass it off. So please use the Zoom chat for any comments, reactions, or links that will go to the hosts and the panelists. Please use the Q&A function when and if you have any questions for panelists or for the hosts. We also will have a dedicated Q&A session following the roundtable. There is simultaneous translation in English and French. So if you want to listen to it in French or you want to listen to it in English, please click the kind of globe interpretation icon and select your language. The majority of this will be in English. However, some speakers may also switch to French periodically. And of course, recordings and slides will be shared after the webinar. All right, so with that, I am pleased to introduce Ali Rizvi. Next slide, please, Zoe. Ali is the Director of Climate Change and Energy Transition Team and the Acting Head of Human Rights and Conservation Team here at IUCN. He has over 30 years of leadership and management experience in the development and conservation sectors at the international level. In his current dual-hatted role as the Director of the Climate Change and the Human Rights Team, he is, in addition to being a big gender champion, he provides vision, strategic direction, and the operational guidance for the development and implementation of IUCN's global work on climate change, disaster risk reduction, gender, Indigenous peoples, and human rights. Welcome, Ali.
Thank you, Georgia. Thank you to our distinguished panelists and to all of you joining us today from every corner of the world. It's a privilege to open this webinar and to share that how IUCN and its partners are confronting one of the most urgent and under-recognized crises of our time, the inextricable link between gender-based violence and environmental degradation. At IUCN, we have long understood that there can be no biodiversity conservation, no climate resilience, and no sustainable development without gender equality and women empowerment. For years, we have acted as thought leader through research, advocacy, and on-the-ground programming to make this principle a reality. A milestone is that journey came in 2020 when, with generous support of USAID, IUCN published The Violence of Inequality, the first global report to systematically document how gender-based violence both shapes and is shaped by environmental pressures. That report gave birth to the Resilient, Inclusive, and Sustainable Environments Challenge, the RISE program, the world's first grant mechanism explicitly designed to tackle GBV within environmental programming by requiring environmental organizations to partner with GBV specialists and community-based groups. RISE is pioneering truly integrated solutions. Today, we are honored to have Anne Vahainia with us, representing one of our inspiring RISE grantees, the Global Trauma Project in Kenya. The RISE Challenge is made possible by the Norwegian Agency for Development Cooperation, NORAD, as we know, and we are deeply grateful for their partnership. We are equally proud of our Nature-based Solutions for Adaptation, NAbSA program, supported by Global Affairs Canada through the Partnership for Climate Initiative. NAbSA is building a global community of practice that places gender-responsive action at the heart of climate adaptation and biodiversity conservation. I'm delighted that Celine Heinberg from Global Affairs Canada is with us today, alongside two remarkable NAbSA partners, Gamanachari BD from Manoite Central Committee, Zimbabwe, and Sharon Trazo from Mola ID in Mozambique. These initiatives, alongside decades of advocacy at the UNFCCC, the CBD, and within IUCN's own policies, have produced hard-won gains. Just 2 months ago, at the IUCN World Conservation Congress in Abu Dhabi, our members adopted a powerful new resolution that mandates mainstreaming gender equality and explicit safeguards against gender-based violence across all biodiversity policies, programs, and funding streams. And yet, as everyone on this call knows, these victories on paper are still far from victories on the ground. Last week, I returned from COP30 in Belém, Brazil, energized by the passion and commitment of so many colleagues and partner organizations driving ambitious, integrated climate action, yet once again, deeply struck by how frequently gender and gender-based violence remain invisible in these rooms. I was part of a high-level panel on integrating nature and climate agendas for more than an hour. No, not one speaker mentioned gender. When I finally intervened, reminding everyone that we cannot possibly be nature positive if we are not also people positive and explicitly gender positive. I highlighted the uncomfortable truth. The conservation sector itself is still largely blind to the gender-based violence that far too often accompanies its projects. The reaction was supportive, but also visibly surprised. For many, these still feel like separate conversations. They are not. They never were. We know because we see it every day in the communities where we work that when resources become scarce, when ecosystems degrade, when climate shocks hit, it's women and girls who bear the brunt of violence. And we know the reverse is equally true. Where gender-based violence is unchecked, environmental projects fail, community ownership collapses, and conservation gains unravel. Today, the global aid retreating and environmental pressures mounting. This nexus is no longer an academic issue. It's a non-negotiable precondition for achieving the coming Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, the Paris Agreement, and the SDGs. That's why we are here. Welcome to Protecting People, Protecting Nature, Addressing Gender-Based Violence in Environmental Context. Over the next hour, you will hear directly from voices on the front line of this work, practitioners who are proving that when we protect women and girls, we protect ecosystems. And when we heal ecosystems, we create the conditions for safer, more equitable societies. To set the stage, it's my honor to introduce our first speaker, Celine Heinbecker. Celine is Director of the Environment and Climate Partnership Division at Global Affairs Canada. Her team supports Canadian, Indigenous, and international partners worldwide to advocate the coming Montreal Framework, the Paris Agreement, and the Sustainable Development Goals. With more than 20 years in diplomacy and international development, including postings at the Canadian Embassy in Peru and the Privy Council Office, Celine brings extraordinary expertise and vision to this agenda. Over to you, Celine. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ellie, and thanks to the IUCN for convening today's event. I always appreciate opportunities to connect with our partners, and it's always a pleasure to see you on the screen. J'apprécie toujours les occasions de rencontrer nos partenaires. I would like to begin by acknowledging that I am speaking to you from Ottawa, which is located on the unceded, unsurrendered territory of the Anishinaabe Algonquin Nation. In Canada, Indigenous women face serious challenges related to gender-based violence. The efforts of Indigenous communities here to use culturally grounded prevention and care to address violence can provide insights for all our work. I'm pleased to be able to highlight some Canadian contributions during the 2025 16 Days to End GBV. Je suis heureuse de pouvoir mettre en avant certaines contributions canadiennes lors des 16 jours de lutte contre la violence fondée sur le genre de 2025. And it is especially an honor to speak on the same platform as speakers on the screen who have dedicated decades to ending GBV and are doing the very hard frontline work. As the world marks the 30th anniversary of one of the most progressive international agreements on women's rights in the last decades, the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action, this year's 16 Days campaign focuses on one of the fastest growing forms of abuse, digital violence against women and girls in all their diversity. From deepfakes and surveillance to online harassment and sexual exploitation, technology-facilitated GBV is reshaping the landscape of violence, abuse, and exploitation. This global challenge can reach into every society, every sector, and every screen, including the devices in urban and rural areas where Canada supports the use of technology for climate change adaptation and biodiversity conservation through partners like Mennonite Central Committee, MCC, and Mission Inclusion. Digital technologies can be used effectively to share information, as we're doing right now, to build awareness and capacity and change mindsets on social norms and culture and increase gender equality. These are all essential in Canada's climate change and biodiversity action. Les technologies numériques peuvent être utilisées efficacement pour partager des informations, sensibiliser et renforcer les capacités, changer les mentalités sur les normes sociales et la culture, et accroître l'égalité entre les genres, autant des éléments essentiels dans l'action du Canada en matière de changement climatique et de biodiversité. We have seen this, for example, through projects like Farm Radio International's On Air for Gender Inclusive Nature-based Climate Solutions project, which has increased awareness of nature-based solutions and the essential role of women in their implementation through radio and cell phone-based engagement. Similarly, MCC's Men Can Cook Facebook page and YouTube channel showcase advances made in Zimbabwe in getting men to contribute more towards household responsibilities by cooking for their families. These are good uses of technology, especially when they, just like the indigenous approaches I mentioned earlier, anchor messages in local cultures, values, and practices that empower women and girls. But we know the same screens that are used to view this climate and gender equality information can also access media that encourage abuse and reinforce exploitative views of women and girls. This type of content impacts the lives of all of us, our daughters, our sisters, our mothers, our friends, ourselves, every woman and girl in all their diversity. This situation demands collective action. Cette situation exige une action collective. This year's 16 Days campaign reminds us that digital safety is central to gender equality and to building healthier, more resilient societies. Survivors, communities, and institutions are advocating for change in online norms to foster digital spaces that prioritize safety and dignity, and Canada is actively supporting their efforts. In 2025, as part of our G7 presidency, Canada led the statement against transnational repression, condemning digital tactics like doxing and sexualized smear campaigns that target women and undermine security and sovereignty. Canada's advocacy at the UN and G7 ensures that digital violence is condemned and addressed. It is part of building an international consensus so that no one is silenced by digital threats. Le plaidoyer du Canada à l'ONU et au G7 vise à condamner et combattre la violence numérique. Il s'inscrit dans le cadre de la construction d'un consensus international afin que personne ne soit réduit au silence par des menaces numériques. Canada is the first country to support UNFPA's Making All Spaces Safe global program to prevent and respond to technology-facilitated GBV, which contributes to the development of tools, research, and community-based approaches to empower women and girls to reclaim digital spaces safely and confidently. Since 2017, Canada has invested over $530 million in international assistance to prevent and respond to GBV, including technology-facilitated GBV. These investments have strengthened the capacity of state and non-state actors, including women-led organizations, to address GBV, increased access to justice information, goods, resources, and survivor-centered services to prevent or respond to violence, and empowered women and girls to reclaim their voices and futures. Technology-facilitated GBV is not inevitable. La violence fondée sur le genre facilitée par la technologie n'est pas une réalité inévitable. It can and must be stopped. We can stand with survivors, partners, and communities to stop this violence and build safer communities together. I'll take just 1 second on a personal note. My daughter is quite young, and there is a grassroots movement in Canada right now of parents trying to collectively work to ensure that smartphone use and social media use are delayed for young children because we know of the risks for young children and having access to all of this material online. And so I'm individually part of something like this in Canada, and I'm so inspired by all of the people we're going to hear from today who are doing this incredible work around the world in their own context. So thank you very much for your time. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Celine, for your remarks, and thank you to Global Affairs Canada for all the work you're doing and the support for this kind of programming. I'm now going to move us on to the round table. I'll welcome Carla Manjat who will be leading the round table. I would like to remind the speakers, including myself, to please try to speak a little slowly so that the translation is able to move along smoothly. So now for Carla. Carla is a Mozambican development professional with over 15 years of experience in project management, gender equality, and governance of natural resources. Currently, she serves as a country program manager for IUCN Mozambique, where she leads initiatives promoting inclusive and gender-responsive approaches to conservation and climate resilience. Before joining IUCN, she held senior leadership roles in government, including Deputy National Director of Planning at the Ministry of Fisheries, where she coordinated large donor-funded programs. Welcome, Carla.
Thank you, Georgia, for the introduction, and good morning or good afternoon, everyone, wherever you may be joining us from. As Ali mentioned during his intervention, IUCN continues to support critical work at the intersection of environment, conservation, gender, and gender-based violence around the world. So today it's my pleasure to welcome a group of distinguished experts from organizations on the front line of this work that I've already mentioned. So they join us today as panelists in this roundtable discussion, and we are grateful to have their insights and experience. Now, if you allow me, I will introduce our inspiring project leaders who will be speaking about their experience and the ongoing efforts they are leading to address gender-based violence in environmental context. First, we have Gamushirai Bidi. Gamushirai is the Gender and Social Inclusion Officer for the Mennonite Central Committee, MCC, Zimbabwe. She provides technical support to partners organizations on gender equity, safeguarding, and also social inclusion within the climate change project, local-led Indigenous Nature-based Solutions for Climate Change Adaptation. The abbreviation is LINCZ. This is a project that is implemented in Zimbabwe and is supported by the Global Affairs Canada and IUCN NAbSA initiative. She holds a Bachelor of Arts Honors degree in Development Studies and a Master of Science and Disaster Management completed by the Professional Certification in Gender Studies. We are also joined by Sharon Truzão. Sharon is a gender equality advocate and program coordinator at MULED, a partner organization of IUCN, Mission Inclusion, and Global Affairs Canada, Regenerative Seascapes for People, Climate and Nature, what we call in abbreviation is the ReSea project. She's leading initiatives to prevent gender-based violence, strengthen legal and psychological support for survivors, and empower women and girls across Mozambique. She specializes in transformative gender approach, community advocacy, and capacity building for civil society organization and local leaders. And our next panelist is Annie Waina. Annie is the director of Global Trauma Project Kenya, current Rise Challenge grantee. She is a development partner with over the 15 years of experience designing, implementing, and scaling survival centers, trauma-informed programs in resource-constrained and hard-to-reach communities across Kenya and Eastern Africa. Anna spreads innovative intersectional initiatives that weave together mental health support, gender-based violence prevention, mitigation, and response and climate change justice. Today, to start our conversation, we'll start to put some questions, and we start with Gamushirai. As we know, and you has already mentioned, is the LINCZ initiative, together with your organization, Can Cook program, and its podcasts, has become an influential platform for engaging men and communities in conservation on gender norms and gender-based violence. So, Gamushirai, could you please briefly share with us how this initiative is helping to surface or address the GBV issues within the communities you work with? And have you noticed any major links to technology-facilitated gender-based violence, such as online harassment, harmful digital behaviors, or other technology-driven risks?
Okay.
Gamusha, yes, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Carla. So mainly the Men Can Cook program came as a transformative initiative from the findings that we got from the gender-based analysis, mainly about harmful gender norms and social norms that were existing in our areas of operation. It was initially a program that was done by SCORE Against Poverty, one of MCC's partners, through the Global Affairs Canada Fund grant. So you'd find that it's mainly a gender transformative approach that is creative and an entry point for engaging men and boys. So mainly it's done through cooking competitions where men come together within a community and they cook. So the judges of the competitions are mainly women, local women, their wives and their daughters. They will be judges of that particular competition. And these skills, they are taught by the same women that are then judges of that competition. So you'd find that this has promoted positive gender norms, helping to shift the harmful norms and power imbalances that have been contributing to gender-based violence. And it has also opened safe spaces for dialogues amongst men to talk about unhealthy or harmful conflict resolution issues, and also gender-based violence and all the harmful norms that have been happening within the communities where we work in. And it has also managed to build male allyship, where we have male champions and also having men engaging more in terms of coming up with preventative measures of gender-based violence. In addition to that, men have also acquired cooking skills within the using this project. They have understood the work that is involved in cooking, the actual putting of water, the actual preparing of the meal, the whole process that their women, their wives and their sisters and their daughters go through. So through some of the monitoring and evaluation conversations that we've been having, and also SNAP surveys, we have gathered that a lot of things have changed at household level and also at community level, whereby children are attesting to the change that has happened within the household, and they are testifying that their fathers within the household are actively involved from the community side within the community, and it's being implemented within the household at household level. So in terms of technology, most of our community members don't use smartphones. They have small mobile phones where they only receive messages and also phone calls. However, we have a certain percentage that have smartphones. So with those phones, what we do is we send out bulk messaging during the times of commemorations, like the 16 days, even International Day of Rural Women and stuff like that. So we continuously capacitate them using those messages. And we also have a platform through our partners to speak on the radio. So we have radio sessions where we talk about gender-based violence, our Men Can Cook program, and other programs relating to gender transformation and gender-based violence. So we have even gender champions at community level that capacitate or raise awareness on gender-based violence, and also address harmful digital norms, even through 16 days marches that we usually do at community level. So we have other initiatives that we're doing as a project that help combat the issues of gender-based violence. We have fuel efficient stoves that we've introduced, especially for women, so that we lessen the distances that they walk to fetch firewood, and where they're also subject to abuse or gender-based violence. And also we have scheduled times for trainings and project activities so that they suit the times at which women finish their work, so that they are able to fully participate within our projects. We also have child minding spaces where when women meet in a particular training, they're able to have a baby minder taking care of their children, while at least they gain knowledge from trainings that we conduct. So in a nutshell, I think this is what we're doing as the LINCZ project under MCC through our partners. Thank you.
Hi, thank you, Gamushirai. It was inspiring to hear how creative platforms like Men Can Cook and your other radio or podcast that you are driving conversation that might not otherwise happen. I think your insights show how innovative approach can make a real difference when we are addressing those gender-based violence issues. It was also nice to hear that you create a space so you can have a space so the mothers can attend the training while someone is taking care of the baby. That one is also good. Sharon, this next question is for you. One of ReSea project's key priorities is supporting women's economic leadership within blue economy value chain and markets. And as we know, when economic empowerment efforts are implemented in isolation, they can sometimes result in backlash against women. Sharon, could you please describe us the gender-based violence risks you have identified in the context of this economic strained work, and share the approach that ReSea project has put in place to address these risks in Mozambique?
Sure. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's a pleasure to share with you all a little bit of our work under the ReSea project and as women. First of all, my salute to every woman and gender people out here. We are celebrating and also reflecting on 16 days where we suffer from all kinds of violence. So it's our time to raise our voices and stand up for each other. So regarding the ReSea project in Mozambique, this is a very interesting initiative because we already assume the relevant role that women have in society for development, especially in environmental contexts. So under these pillars of preserving ecosystems, pushing for governance, we also understand the need for economic independence. So we build around the women a system of business enablers where this woman can thrive in a community that wasn't so kind to her. First, because in Vilanculos and Nyasoro, those are districts that are in the coastline of Mozambique, and in Inhambane province, where the project is being implemented, we have centers for community, for fisheries development. We call them CCPs. So the presidency of these CCPs were mostly occupied by men. There you have a problem of leadership and governance. These women had no voice. They were simply a part of the value chain in blue economy, where they were just called upon to sell the fish. And even the gains from selling the fish weren't really going for them. It was going for the family and to their husbands, who were controlling the financial income of the family. Imagine in the case of women who are the chief of the households and single mothers, those are left in a much vulnerable state when it comes to financial independence and respect in a society where men hold the most power and the most respect. So the ReSea project addresses this issue by putting women in a position of leadership, making them understand, generating this agency in them to allow them to understand that they have a role and they can be in a position of leadership, active participation in economic decisions within the community, starting from the CCPs, the Centers for Fisheries Management, and also by very simple activities such as how to acquire the fish, how to coordinate the boats who go to the sea to catch the fish, how to negotiate with the fishermen so they themselves cannot feel at a disadvantage when it comes to the price to resell, having access to microcredits, but in a way that it's what we call groups of savings groups, I will say savings groups, where they can create a network of women where they can start saving money to develop their own issues. So it's kind of a banking system that will allow them to grow their initiatives, grow their partnerships in a more enabling environment. And also working with men, trying to push positive masculinities and allow them to understand that women occupying the spaces does not mean that you are irrelevant, or does not mean that you yourselves as men are in a position of losing any power, and a power that wasn't yours to hold when it comes to putting women into submission, but to live in a harmony society. So what happened in trying to push this initiative is the fact that we faced risks of these women suffering psychological, sexual, economic violence. First, because to access the resources such as fish, they are also often faced with under the CCPs sexual harassment to be a part of this management committees. They are also often faced with blackmail and preconditions that denigrate their credibility and reputation, their ownership of their role in society, by putting them in a position of, you are only gonna advance in this area if you do this, that is input by men. So we have a great work of trying to shift the mentality, psychological assistance that they require, also legal assistance, because the violation of rights cannot even be put under a sheet during this webinar, because it would have no end. Starting from realizing that that woman has a name, that woman has a right to her own voice, that woman has a right to her own life. And in Mozambique, we also watch a very concerning increase of feminicide. So it's a context that is very worrying for us, because this power imbalance and the way that they perceive how the relationship dynamic, the roles in society, the gender roles in society is affecting very much the plain development and agency of women, especially in these coastal communities. Starting from in-partner domestic violence and going for the theme of this year's 16 Days of Activism. The digital threat starts from the moment where you see digital inequality, no access to digital means, and therefore no access to reports, to prevent, and to react to digital threats. No smartphones access, which Gamu has explained very well. And I think that applies to, I believe, most African countries' contexts, and really puts us in a space where we have to reflect on what is our role to push for the development of new strategies and approaches to solve this issue. So where this project is a very beautiful and creative, we find very serious barriers that we are trying to address. And given the 30 years of expertise of Mulady working with gender-based violence, we even own a gender-based violence shelter in a Manisa district. We use different approaches, starting with positive masculinities conversations, or men to men, where they can understand this dynamics, and also equipping women with all the tools, knowledge, and practices that will enable them to navigate this very complicated context, and especially drive for blue economy development in the coastal areas, so they can fully develop their own enterprises and initiatives. You have women having their own stations where they sell fish, doing beekeeping, the seedlings, the mangroves development. It's a very interesting initiative, and you can see how women are possible driving this change, and also developing in this context, irregardless.
Okay, thank you, Sharon, for your reflections. It helped us in terms of provide a strong reminder about the importance of linking economic opportunities with protection and gender-based violence prevention. It's also good to listen that you guys are promoting the saving and resolving credit groups, what is important, and it can help empower those women that are involved on the fishery activities. And now is Anne. Honey, the safety and the well-being for women in fisheries project aims to transform Kwale County's artisanal fisher sector in a safe, more inclusive, and environmental sustainable ecosystem. Can you, Anne, please share with us a bit about how the GBV is manifesting in the fisheries sectors in Kwale County, and the work that your organization and its partners are doing to address it?
Thank you, Carla. So the Safety and Wellbeing for Women in Fisheries project, we are implementing in Kwale County in coastal Kenya. And we are working with small scale in the artisanal fisheries, or in the small scale fishing sector. And in this sector, women play a very key role across the fisheries value chain, especially with pre-harvest and post-harvesting activities. Women are traders, they mend the nets, they are processing the fish, transporting, and doing a lot of entrepreneurship. They are also very a lot involved in environmental conservation, such as ensuring the mangroves are conserved for breeding the fish. So due to the environmental degradation and the climate change, we've seen a lot of decline in fish stocks, which has led to competition. And this competition has increased power imbalances, which has now led an increased women's vulnerability to GBV. So how does this GBV manifest in this fishery sector? So one is through sex for fish practices. So due to these declining fish stocks and overfishing, competition for these limited fish makes it very, very intense. And so women are more vulnerable to sexual exploitation by those who control access to the fish, which are the men. So these sex for fish practices is basically where some male fishers will coerce women to have sex with them in exchange for the fish. We've also seen a lot of harassment and violence at the fish landing sites. This is where the fishermen bring out the fish, especially during peak hours. And due to that, women do face the hustling and the jostling for the fish. Women face a lot of verbal harassment, intimidation, even physical threats. So the fish landing sites are quite unsafe for women. And so that reduces women's mobility and even their participation in sustainable fisheries activities. We've seen this is really reinforced by harmful gender norms. We do have very, very harmful patriarchal and gender norms. For example, is that women are not allowed to go for deep sea fishing. There are myths that they will go crazy, they will go mad. It's not allowed. So such things. Women are also excluded, for example, from leadership and governance in beach management units. These are the structures that govern the fishing. So in addition to that, we've now seen that these harmful gender norms have also now led to economic violence. So there is systemic exclusion from leadership, decision-making, access to even fishing resources, such as fishing gear, being able to have the fishing boats. So women become then that they're limited and they are less economically empowered. We have also now witnessed firsthand how the digital tools, which we've been empowering the women to use them to market their products and their services. But then what we have seen is that the social media space where they are using to market their products has now become also exploitative. So it is exposing them more to online harassment. They are facing extortion, a lot of reputational risks and attacks. And sometimes the one we have seen mostly is non-consensual sharing of images. And this creates fear among the women. And then it limits their ability to engage in the digital market or advocate for their rights. So, we've seen a lot of how technology, for example, is also fueling other types of violence. We've seen cases where, for example, intimate partner violence is then being used. Offline violence is then extending into the digital space. But how now, what do we do? So our project, we use a survivor-centered, trauma-informed approach to create a safer and more inclusive artisanal fisheries sector for women. And how do we do that? One, we strengthen systems for GBV risk mitigation. So we conduct the safety assessments. We are conducting safety assessments to map the GBV hotspots and the safe and the unsafe places, and then developing safety action plans. And this is participatory with the women and the stakeholders. We are also working with beach management units to ensure that there are safeguarding practices and policies in place. So it's an ongoing process. We are enhancing access to trauma-informed GBV response. And so that means we are training women, GBV champions, to facilitate group-based trauma healing sessions. And we are creating safe spaces and then strengthening referral systems to ensure that once the women are in the safe spaces, then we are able to link them and refer them to comprehensive support. We are also promoting gender equitable participation and norms change. So we are working a lot with male champions and engaging men in trauma healing through the beach management units. Finally, we're empowering women leaders to make sure that they are also being integrated into the fisheries governance structures. So this is what our project is doing. And always I get the question in terms of what is trauma and what is trauma informed. So I can just explain those. So usually trauma is just an experience that overwhelms your ability, your capacity to cope. It leaves you feeling very helpless and changes how you experience yourself and the world and your relationships. So being trauma informed, because we use a trauma informed community empowerment framework and a trauma informed change making approach. Being trauma informed then means that everything we do, we need to be very aware that there are many people who have experienced trauma due to GBV, and that every interaction, every service, every need, it should promote the safety, the dignity, the choice, and the healing of the survivors, rather than causing further harm. So I'll stop there, and thank you.
I thank you, Anne. Your insights shed the important light on the reality women face in the fisher sector and meaningful work being done to support their safety and well-being. Well done. So now I think we are going to move. I would like first to say thank you for the panelists for this engaging started discussion. It is a very difficult but still important topic. But now we're going to move to open questions for to engage with our audience. And I would like to open the floor to the audience for questions or reflections. And please feel free to use the chat or the Q&A function if you would like to contribute. And we'll do our best to ensure that we answer all the questions as many times as allows. I think we have the first questions on chat. It is how, for the panelists, is how is gender-based violence connected to climate change and its impacts? I don't know who's going to start, or shall I indicate? Do you want me to repeat the question? The question is, how is the gender-based violence connected to climate change and its impacts? Maybe Sharon, we can start with you. And yes, go ahead, Anne.
Yes, so GBV in and of itself, first of all, has very serious consequences on women's health. It limits access. And so, for example, in the case where I was talking about women who are involved in conserving the mangroves, which are part of the fisheries, and they're doing that so that the fish can breed, so that there's more fish. The women are also they're very vocal in terms of advocating for the right fishing equipment so that the marine ecosystem is not being destroyed. However, GBV is an issue also of power dynamics. And so it is used as a weapon and as a tool to keep quiet or to minimize or to stop advocacy. And it actually silences the voices of women. So they will participate less in conservation efforts. If they go to landing sites and they notice wrong fishing gear, and that if they bring it up, then they are faced with verbal harassment, they are chased away, they are abused, then they just say, you know what, I won't ask again. So this is where now that if you have 50% of the population, for example, not participating in environmental conservation efforts, for example, in the fishery sector, so that it's only mostly the men, even within the beach management units, it's shocking that in the entire Kwale County, we only have one woman who is in the management. And we have quite a number of beach management units, I think over 20 of them. So this does affect how we conserve our environment and the environmental degradation. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. We have also a question for Sharon. I'll read the questions. Have you developed tracking models that integrated economic and social flows in order to link financial empowerment to the reduction of gender-based violence?
Please slowly. English is not my
sorry. Okay. The question
Okay.
is, have you developed tracking models that integrated economic and social flows in order to link financial empowerment to reductions of gender-based violence?
Yes, we have. So upon starting the ReSea project, what we started doing first was a needs assessment. We conducted a needs assessment because more than trying to drive economic empowerment, you would need to go to the terrain and understand what these women need and what is the context that they're supposed to thrive on. So we conducted a needs assessment where we looked on one side, what are the business opportunities and what have they been doing so far? What are the activities or and the sectors that are developing in Vilanculos and Nyasoro, and also in terms of the gender concepts, what is the social context, the political and economic drivers that can or hinder or advance the woman's development in this context. So this needs assessment just shows us that in Nyambani, tourism, small scale business, and artisanal fishing are the forms or the main forms of development and the main business opportunities under the ReSea project. So we developed two manuals, one for entrepreneurship, two for soft skills. The entrepreneurship focused on giving them the practical tools for increasing productivity, income, teaching them about financial management and how entrepreneurship works and how they can thrive. The other manual, it's about soft skills, negotiation, agency, how to own and present yourself in a way that can better sell your initiative, your project, and what it is that is supposed to drive your full development under this economy. So the needs assessment was the base of our process to start this blue economy business development with the women, and also what was used as the base for the kits of the businesses that we are giving to the women. So and we do have. Oh, sorry, I'm reading the questions. And we do also have other initiatives and businesses because we have managed to create 11 groups. So they're developing in groups, not in individuals, but as groups, because we figured that would be the most successful way for them to develop. And we have seen very interesting initiatives, like I said, the beekeeping, the mangroves, and they're also coming up with new things, such as using mangroves to develop projects like remedies, medicine, and also other initiatives. So you can see women's creativity moving beyond what we thought as project coordinators, but the realities of the field playing out even better than what we had anticipated.
Okay, thank you, Sharon. Gamushirai, I think we have a question here. It's an interesting question. I want to know more about the Men Can Cook initiative. How did the project break the stereotypes surrounding men supporting household chores to get them participate in this initiative?
Okay, thank you so much. Some of the challenges that we met were resistance from men themselves, because cooking was seen as women's work, and they were hesitant to join into the competitions. But that was addressed through open dialogues on positive masculinity and involving supportive male role models and community leaders, because you know how it is within communities. Communities follow what the community leaders usually practice and tell them. So it was easier that way. And also the other challenge that we had was the community perceptions and stigma, where participants faced a lot of teasing and judgment for taking part in the cooking program. So this was addressed through community sensitization and sharing of success stories, like how I mentioned earlier on monitoring and evaluation of how other households have managed to implicate that within their households. And also low confidence in cooking skills by men, but constant capacitation by their wives and daughters and also local women, and creating a non-judgmental environment and starting with simple recipes have also encouraged men to keep on doing the men can cook. Thank you.
Thank you. I have one more question. I think it's interesting question that is not directed for someone else, but you can, if you want, you can answer. What do you consider to be the main challenge in preventing gender-based violence in protected areas and environmental conservation efforts? Do you want me to repeat? What do you consider to be the main challenge in preventing gender-based violence in protected areas and environment conservation efforts? I don't know
For
who's
me,
going
I
to
feel
take this one.
maybe I can start.
Go ahead, please.
Okay. For me, I feel like it's mainly the attitudes that people have and the norms that are built within the particular communities or society that we work in. So a lot of work needs to be done in terms of dialogues, in terms of having conversation, in terms of awareness raising, so that that mindset is shifted, because change takes time. Change really takes time and it needs consistency. It needs us to keep on putting in a lot of work into ensuring that GBV issues are addressed. I think Sharon wanted to answer as well.
Okay, go ahead, Sharon, please.
Oh, no, I was just telling her to go first. But basically, I agree with Kamushira. I said it's basically just trying to push. Sorry, 1 second. I'm receiving here. Okay, so it's basically what Kamushira said. That's right. I now got lost in the question. Can you repeat, Carla? Sorry. Okay, my audio. Are you muted?
What do you consider to be the main challenge in preventing gender-based violence in protected areas and environmental conservation efforts?
The main challenges are the social norms, the patriarchal views, and the gender roles that have been imprinted in society so far. In the coastal region, like I said in my previous speech, was that men do not see women as important to drive economic, political, social development in any area. So we must shift that mindset in order to address these issues. And gender-based violence comes from the non-understanding of how differences can add to one's life and an environment, a society as a whole. So intimate partner violence, femicide have been the major consequences of gender-based violence so far. And the challenge is so great because we are working more and we see more awareness being raised. We see more women speaking out, more agency, more movements being built and getting strengthened. And at the same time, there is an exponential increase to gender-based violence, domestic violence, femicide. I keep repeating this because even under the 16 Days of Activism, we see these cases, and it's outrageous how how this keeps happening, and we see no decrease. The mechanisms to report still have a lot to improve. We need to capacitate people from the police stations to be more humane, to not violate the victim more than once. If you explain how you were violated once, you don't need to go to the medical examination and explain to it again. We need a structure, a mechanism that will allow us to control the victim's statement once, just collect it once, and have it pass across all the sectors that need to address this issue. And then we need it to be more flexible, more dynamic, so that this victim can see and seek justice and believe in this justice system, which is something that is not happening so far. So sometimes these challenges are often disguised as tradition, as cultural, as acceptable norms, as African heritage. And to go against this norms is what you call a major defiance in our African contexts. And we need to know how to address this properly and with cautiousness. So the challenge is to really know how to work around all the barriers that are preventing women to live plainly in society, from their education to access to that same education, mechanisms to how do you say, English is running from me, mechanisms to put the people who violate them to justice, and ensuring that their rights are properly preserved. I hope I answered the question.
Yes, Sharon, thank you. I don't know if Anna, you would like also to put on reflection on it. If no, because of the time constraints, maybe I'll invite all of the panelists, if you could put your answers on some questions that we could not cover during this conversation on the Zoom chat, we will appreciate. And there is a panelist that is asking to share some resource like the manual that Sharon is talking about related with entrepreneurships and the negotiations and other things. So if you have a lot other kind of materials or resource that you feel that it's important for the audience to have more deep knowledge about what you have already shared, please feel free to put it on the link or share with the organization, so we can then share with all the participants. It will be good for us. I would like to thank you very much for all of you for this valuable conversation and insights that you bring, and also to our audience for your engagement and reflection that you put during the chat. So let's carry these lessons forward, and we continue building safer and more inclusive and resilient communities. So now I will now turn it back over to Georgia. Over.
Thank you, Carla. Thank you, Anne. Thank you, Kamu. Thank you, Sharon. This was really excellent. And thank you to all of the audience members who have stayed with us to the end. I wish we could keep talking. It's clear there's a lot to discuss. This is just one of many future webinars to come, so please stay tuned. I'd like to ask you, we just dropped a poll in the chat for everyone in the audience. If you would please take the poll, it helps us a lot. It's just one question, so it'll just take like one, actually it's 2 questions or 3 questions. Sorry about that, misinformation. But it should take just a second. We'd really appreciate it if you just take a moment to fill out the poll. And as Carla mentioned to our panelists, if you know, as we continue through in closing remarks, if you can, you can actually answer the questions in the Q&A directly. If you're able to, that would be great. We'll also be dropping a few links for everyone in the audience if you want to, and we would love for you to keep following IUCN's work on this. So we'll be dropping links to the NAbSA program and to the RISE challenge, subscription links, the websites, etc. So please stay tuned. There will be lots more conversations to come. So with that, I would love to introduce my colleague, Jackie Siles, to give closing remarks. Jackie is a senior gender specialist from the Human Rights and Conservation team here at IUCN. She has worked here for over 25 years, advancing sustainable and equitable development in diverse environmental sectors, such as protected areas, fisheries, and coastal marine, energy, forest, climate change, watershed management, and agriculture, as well as including social and gender issues on public policy development. So it goes without saying, she has a lot of experience in this sector and has a lot to say. So welcome, Jackie. Thank you for your remarks.
Okay. I want to thank everyone who joined us today in this important discussion on environment and gender-based violence linkages in commemoration of the 16 Days of Activism against gender-based violence. My sincere thanks to Anne, Gamushari, and also Sharon for sharing their experience, but also their insights. I especially want to thank to Global Affairs Canada and the Norwegian Agency for Development Cooperation for providing critical funding for this work. As today's discussion made clear, our community of development and environmental professionals and practitioners have made meaningful strides in recognizing and supporting initiatives that address gender-based violence in the environment context. I am proud of the work IUCN continues to champion in this space, from supporting negotiations in the climate, but also the Biodiversity Convention, where gender-based violence and women issues were included, for example, in the Berlin Gender Plan of Action, or COP30, and the adoption of the CBD Gender Plan of Action, and even IUCN Resolution 51 that it was mentioned previously in relation to mainstream gender equality into biodiversity policies, programs, actions, and fundings. I have been working in this field for a long time, and I can say that we have truly seen some progress. But today's conversation reminds us that there is still so much more that can be done. We're living in a moment of compounding challenges for women's safety and their rights to live a life free of violence. Alongside the backlash against women's rights, new technologies are enabling digital forms of abuse, new forms of violence that often involve faster that we collectively can respond or have the ability to do something. So I think spaces like this one that we have today, where we can share what we are seeing in our communities, but also reflect about the opportunities and the challenges and how can we learn for each other, are really essential. So just to close this event, I just want to thank all of you for joining us today. Thank you. Georgia?
Thank you, everyone, for joining today. That is the end of the webinar. Please stay tuned. You know, we just added a couple of links in the chat for you to for you to follow IUCN's work moving forward. So please stay tuned to the NAbSAclimate.org website and the genderandenvironment.org website. The emails are there as well. We'll be following up with a recording of the webinar as well as some other resources. Also, we've been publishing a series of blogs these last few days. One came out today. I hope you all will follow it. There's one more coming out, and then we will have an additional blog going over like what was discussed in the webinar as well. So thank you so much for joining. This has been a wonderful discussion. Thank you especially to our roundtable panelists. Thank you to Celine for joining us from Global Affairs Canada. Canada really stands out as a donor, really doing a lot in this space, and it really means a lot to those of us who work at this intersection. And of course, thank you to my colleagues at IUCN who made this possible, especially Ali and Jackie. So thank you very much.